People always use my driveway to turn around. A few days ago, someone pulled in and didn't leave. I stood and watched them from the window of my living room, peeking out through the blinds. The car sat there suspiciously, idling just at the end of the driveway. I thought maybe they were lost and checking the GPS on their phone, trying to figure out where they missed a turn. When the car stayed there for 5 minutes, I started to get worried. I raised the blinds and started waving to see if I could get some kind of reaction. The car continued to idle there, the faint trail of exhaust rising in the chilly night. Nobody turned on the dome light. Nobody got out. Nothing. I just stood there watching, wondering if I should go out there or call the police, but that seemed a little ridiculous. Instead, I did something I really didn't want to. I went to see why they were sitting there. I put on my shoes and pulled on a jacket. I brought my phone for lighter in case I needed to help them call a tow truck or something. I thought the best case scenario was maybe they got a flat tire, and their phone had died and they were too nervous to knock on the door. Like I said, it was after 11, and knocking on someone's door at that hour could be just as shady as watching them sit at the end of my driveway. Against my better judgment, I stepped outside. I could hear the engine running in the distance, along with a chorus of crickets chirping in the night. It took me a few seconds to get the courage to walk out there. The driveway is pretty long and it's really dark. Everything feels scarier in the middle of the night, especially with no neighbors close by. I swallowed hard and started walking, keeping my eyes on the car as I walked over. I turned on the flashlight function on my phone and tried to keep a steady pace on the way. Gravel crunched under my feet and my palms started to sweat. Maybe they were drunk and fell asleep. Maybe it was a couple of young kids lost on a late night out. When I got about 20 feet away, I got a sick feeling in my stomach. Something felt off, especially when I could see the driver behind the wheel. They were just looking at me like they were frozen. I could only faintly make out their eyes, a pale visage within the darkness of the front seat. "Hello?" I asked aloud, trying not to sound as nervous as I was. No response. The driver didn't even blink. I took a couple steps closer, trying to see if there was anyone else in there with them. The urge to call the police itched at me more the closer I got. "You lost? This is private property," I called out again, the features in the driver's face looking more unsettling the closer I got. I could only see their eyes, their nose. Why couldn't I see anything else? Why weren't they moving? The headlights were blinding, making it hard to see. I kept pushing forward, holding up a hand to try and block so I could see. I had no choice but to get closer and try to get around to the driver's side to get a better look. More crunching footsteps and their car getting louder. The driver didn't move a muscle, didn't motion to me or anything. I realized I was holding my breath, the anxiety welling within me as I approached. The driver looked like a woman, her hands in front of her, holding the wheel, but it was so dark in there I couldn't see her hands. Only the unmoving stare. A strong feeling of foreboding radiated from the eerie car, and my body begged to turn and run back to the house. Something was wrong. Very, very wrong. I walked around the front of the vehicle to the driver's side and held up my flashlight to see them. They didn't turn to look at me, they didn't do anything. My eyes slowly calibrated what was in front of me, and when it finally pieced together, I wanted to scream. The woman was dead, her lifeless eyes frozen on my house, unable to look away. Her throat had been slashed, and the entire car was spattered with blood. Duct tape was everywhere. A single wrap across her forehead to hold her in place, a strip over her mouth so she couldn't speak, and several tight binds around her wrists to keep them to the steering wheel. Her hands had been removed. I called the police, frantically looking everywhere as the world seemed to be caving in on me.